when I wrote the Phillies in game 2, instead of doing season on the brink, I just went straight to eulogy. Hello and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world that cries when every team gets eliminated from the postseason. I'm Jake Mintz. That's Jordan Shusterman, and I feel for these guys, and I feel left out. I want to cry too.
It's only fair, right? We're not going to get to watch Jose Caballero play baseball for a while, and that kind of bums me out, to be honest. After
Can I tell a quick
that diving play to finish Game 3, the Yankees are alive.
So
not quite.
I maybe misunderstood what happened and misheard, but multiple other people in the Yankees locker room tonight heard this. As we were walking in, there was obviously a whole horde of us, and Jose Caballero was walking across, and he kind of looked towards us, no one in particular, and said, "Sorry, guys." And I don't know if he meant sorry for losing, and maybe he meant sorry for being in your way, right? That totally could have been it, just to be clear. But
sorry for taking a while post game.
Sorry for taking a while post game. Actually, you know what? I think that actually is the correct answer. But it did make me and a couple other people giggle a little bit. The idea that Jose Caballero was apologizing to the media on behalf of the entire New York Yankees, and those Yankees will be our opener. This happens every year now. It feels like tradition. It's it's hard to describe, right? The night that the Yankees are done, the night that the Yankees season is over, it holds a very unique notch in the baseball calendar, right? Because I think that people in our age group are conditioned to believe that they will win every year. And that is both because growing up, we grew up people who've rooted against the Yankees, but there are people who grew up rooting for the Yankees, just assuming that every year would be their year. And so when they're done, it makes me feel youngish, and it almost feels unreal. We should probably say that they lost to the Toronto Blue Jays, who I have slighted heavily so far in this podcast by saying the Yankees lost, and not that the Blue Jays won. And we will talk about those Toronto Blue Jays, but we will begin with the Yankees.
Well, and also, we get to keep talking about the Toronto Blue Jays, which I am ecstatic to do. I am so excited to continue to watch this baseball team. They have been a true joy for the majority of this season. So we will get to them, but I do want to dig in a little bit more on what you were getting at there about the Yankees, because we've now been doing podcasts for a long time, and we've had versions of these conversations, as you mentioned, every year, right? Now that concept of every year we get to talk about the Yankees not winning the World Series seems silly in the full context of baseball history, but I was thinking about it in the context of just the modern internet space. The last time the Yankees won the World Series, there weren't a billion podcasts for people to go on and talk about them.
Has
the internet was a thing. There were podcasts.
Has a Yankee, because the Yankee podcast culture industry is its own thing, and they have never gotten to do a World Series.
That's the thing, and I'm sure there were Yankees podcasts, but you see what I'm getting at, and if you expand that to just our experience on the baseball internet beyond just podcasting, but just the social media, the people who want to log on and hate watch this team, that is a premise. While, as you mentioned, many people across the country have been hate watching the Yankees for generations,
and
the way
another
that
country
it is shared and elsewhere, yes, the way that it is shared and communicated on a second by second basis, that is something that has only existed in an era where they do not win the World Series. And so that in this year, where they don't even come remotely close to winning the World Series, unlike last year where they go 5 games with the Dodgers and finally get there, is a pretty significant step in the wrong direction. And honestly, if we do compare it to last year, and maybe we can start bringing the Blue Jays back into this, it didn't feel particularly close. And we can get to that big Judge moment in Game 3, but the Blue Jays just looked like the better team pretty decisively along the way. And yes, the Yankees certainly have a lot of talent that showed up in this series along the way at times, but Toronto looked like the division champ. I know they won the same number of games in the division, but they looked like the better team decisively, just like the Dodgers did a year ago in the World Series.
The first 2 games, Toronto won because the Yankees pitched really poorly. And then tonight, Toronto won because the Yankees hit really poorly. And you can break it down more than that, or you cannot. It is that simple. Faced with a bullpen game today, a reverse bullpen game in some ways, because the Blue Jays threw like some of their better arms at the front end, which was very interesting. The Yankees had no answer. Their only run tonight in the elimination game was a solo shot from Ryan McMahon, the 9-hole hitter, in the bottom of the 3rd inning. That was it. Aaron Judge goes 2 for 4 with an intentional walk and a 112-mile-an-hour line out as one of his outs. And the Yankee season ends. It's interesting, right? Because I look at this. I spent a lot of time around this team, and I do genuinely believe that this team was good enough to win a World Series. Now, that doesn't matter because they didn't, right? I picked them to win the World Series. So clearly I believe they were good enough to win the World Series. But they just had bats that didn't show up in these 4 games. That's Grisham, that's Bellinger, that's Volpe, who I believe finished the series 1 for 15 with like 11 Ks, which is kind of big yikes. What is different about this season, the way it ends for the Yankees, is Judge, right? Judge gets his moment. And I think that what is so interesting is that so like on one hand, it doesn't matter, right? Because they lose. And so like when he goes up there and talks today after the game, he's not up there and thinking like, well, good thing I hit that homer yesterday, so no one's going to ask me about this anymore. Like, no, right? Like, you win or you don't win. And in 10 years, when we look back on Aaron Judge, he'll either have a ring or he won't, right? What it means is that for the next 2 Octobers, like, we don't have to talk about this. We don't have to do the is Aaron Judge, can he do it when it matters, right? We don't have to do that anymore. And I don't think that he cares about that, frankly. And so on one hand, the swing that he has in Game 3 is so monumental and so important for how we look at this guy and his performance in October. But now that, like, in the aftermath of it, I don't want to say that it didn't matter, but it's like he takes no solace in it, I think.
Definitely not. Now I will add, just as a formal correction, that Judge's last swing of the season resulted in a run. They did score one more run in the bottom of the 9th after a Jason Dominguez shocking, stunning last-second appearance with a double.
It was funny to
and then
when
Judge
they
drives
pinch him. It was like remembering some guys, but he's an active player. You know, so remember Jason Dominguez?
Born in 2003.
Dude, the funny thing about Dominguez. So, do you remember last year he was the last guy in the dugout, like staring out at the sad field? He did it again.
Yeah, Soto. It's him and Soto, but yeah, it was both. I remember it was him and Soto. Yeah,
he ran it back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, because he knew that last year everyone was paying attention to Soto. He's like, no, it's my time to shine.
It's hilarious main character energy.
How much it hurts.
It's like, okay, man. You know what hurts? Watching you hit left-handed pitching.
Playing defense. Watching him play defense. But anyway, so Judge does finish strong there. But, I mean, as you mentioned, he's the guy that showed up. And listen, it doesn't take away from that swing because it is such a singular highlight. It'd be one thing if that homer was just like a pretty standard Judge opposite field shot, 10 rows deep beyond the short porch, which is like if it was in the exact same spot, like in the game, would have been memorable, but not the same thing. But what that home run looked like, the off the pole, and just like everything about it.
The pitch,
I think
where
will
it
definitely
was.
sustain the pitch, everything, like, and all the wonderful words that you wrote about it, which I encourage everyone to read if they haven't. Like, all that stands. But to your point, like, he's not going to care about that, and it's another season where they, like I said, like, they didn't even come close. They didn't. I mean, they were that heroic swing away from otherwise being completely dominated in the division series, not even getting to the championship series, not even, not winning the division. Like, there were a lot of things that came up very, very short in this season where they had a lot of things go well, including, of course, first and foremost, Judge. But at the end of the day, this team, while I understood why you picked them at the start of this postseason, this is not the beginning of the season. This is at the beginning of the postseason, just recently. And I understood that in this American League field. But I think Toronto showed us that what we saw in the regular season was an accurate demonstration of their ability compared to the Yankees.
And let's talk about Toronto. Let's give them some love, because that is a good team. That is a good team. I did not spend enough time around them this year. We try and allocate our hours and the weeks where the teams are near us to like carve out time to get a sense for them and how they play and who they are. And I now look at, part of it is because they're in the ALCS, and like, I feel like I didn't spend enough time around this team, and that's a regret. And as someone who gets paid to talk about baseball for a living, like, I apologize to the people that listen and to the Blue Jays fans that listen. Like, not that I doubted them or didn't take them seriously, right? It's like, but like, I in the first couple of months, I was like, oh, the Braves are in Philly. I got to go see them. Like, I didn't treat the
You
Blue
weren't
Jays.
the only one making that mistake. That's okay.
I understand. But this team is freaking good, dude. And the way that they won today was really interesting. For us, as people who are trying to like convey a narrative of the game, the bullpen day win sucks, right? Because there's no hero, and there's a new guy on the mound every 4 outs named Braden or Brandon or whatever the heck, Brendan, excuse me. And so like, it's a harder story to tell. But if you're on the team, it's got to be the freaking coolest thing ever. Not just because more guys get to play, right? But like, more of your friends are like involved in it, and it's like, during the champagne celebration, like, you could walk over to Sir Anthony Dominguez and be like, we wouldn't have done it without you. And then like, you can walk over to, Mason Fluharty and be like, you did it, man. Like, it's the epitome of a group project. Whereas like when the Yankees beat the Red Sox, everyone's just going over to Cam Schlittler, And so the Blue Jays bullpen today, which I believed was the weakest link on this team, delivering. I mean, I don't think anybody got more than 5 outs tonight, and they keep the Yankees to 2 runs. It was unbelievable. Yep. Kudos to them.
8 pitchers keeping the Yankees to those 2 runs, and it was quite a bizarre order. But I guess that's kind of what you expect in a bullpen day like this. And what really perfectly encapsulates this, and I don't know if you have watched any of these videos yet I know you were covering Sad Yankees. Have you seen any of the Blue Jays celebration yet? Because some incredible. Okay, so I'm going to let you enjoy it, at another time. But I do want to highlight John Schneider's opening remarks, which, of course, this has become a very popular genre of content.
Did he read a fake letter
2025
from a deceased
this one is
franchise legend?
This one is just straight from the heart. Now, as you know, we're not dropping as many expletives on this show as we used to, but I am gonna at least paraphrase what not paraphrase. I'm going to read you the quote from John Schneider, which, again, this was not even a full speech. I think this is all he said before he started spraying champagne. So he gets the attention of the mics on him, and he goes, "Every single one of you, effing bullpen game, Nathan Lucas, Miles Straw, all you MFers, it takes everybody every day. And then I think he says, start spreading the news, bitches."
Oh, that's so good.
And then they hit New York, and they're just blasting New York.
They play New York, New York.
Oh yeah. Standard. Yeah, that's predictable. And then, but anyway, but back to Schneider's lines. I mean, like this is, as he said, like every, like all of UMFers, right? Like that
except
is
Justin Brule, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah, but it is funny to think about like who didn't get in the game is amusing. But hey, you know what? They didn't need Trey Savage. We thought that they might, and ultimately they didn't have to call on the kid to do it. But I think too, speaking to the offense as well, I think why the Blue Jays are so fun is it's a great mix. It's a great mix of superstars, and veterans that you know. And unfortunately, not Bo Bichette, but maybe he's back for the next round. That would be an amazing addition at this point, obviously. But even if not, there's some players that you recognize and know, and Vlad is the guy. And then it's just an awesome balance of skills. It's really, really, really fun.
Yeah, like you have so you have Vlad, who's like the linchpin, and then you have Bo, who's like the sidekick, and you have Springer, who's the famous dude who accomplished tons of stuff on another team and is like old and, by the way, really balding and has like turned the clock back and is incredible. You have the most uniquely shaped baseball player in the world, Alejandro Kirk. You have Addison Barger. Like, is he actually good meathead slugger?
Love Barger.
Love Barger. You have like three. You have three. I remember when Adam Frazier was on the Mariners, they called him Captain Slapdick. Mm-hmm. Like, I would say that like Ernie Clement and Miles Straw and like kind of IKF like are all like different versions of that player.
Lucas, sorta.
Lucas a little bit as well, right? And then you have Dalton Varsho, who just this wide-eyed former catcher playing in elite center field.
Right, somehow. The elite defenders, multiple elite defenders. We got Jimenez. You've got Varsho, right. but they're also bring their own kind of thing offensively. Yeah.
And I know I don't think he got a hit today, but Anthony Santander saw like 80 pitches and was just locked in and hurt all year. Big money free agent. Finally, like. There's Max Scherzer is on this team. Still didn't see him once over the last 2 days. So like this is a team where if you haven't watched them, there's something for everybody.
Yes, exactly. Because on the mound, you do have some really recognizable names. Like, and Bieber was not great in Game 3, and they, come back and win the series anyway. They do have the hotshot rookie. They do have some hard throwing relievers that you sort of know, some that you have no idea who they are, some funky lefties, some hard throwing lefties. Like you really do got it all. And that's what
the bullpen.
I guess that's what it takes. To get to the ALCS and kick the crap out of the Yankees.
The bullpen is my one beef aesthetically. Okay. I'm really struggling to differentiate like Braden Fisher from Brendan Little from Tommy Nance.
Flu Hardy's
they're all a little
in there.
Flu Hardy's, but no one else in the world is named Flu Hardy. Those three feel like a little bit ChatGPT-y to me, and that's my fault, and I need to spend more time digging into that, and I apologize. But congratulations to the Blue Jays and to the Blue Jays fans. I will be in Toronto. Barring a preposterous Phillies comeback for games 1 and 2 of the ALCS, of which I am excited. I've never been to Rogers Center, and I'm excited to check another stadium off my list, number 28 for yours truly. Jordan, let's take a break. And when we get back, we'll do Mariners Tigers. And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. I am in New York City, still, somehow at 1:16 a.m. Eastern Time. Jordan Shusterman, you are in a different city, in a different hotel room, with the same colored background as me, because all hotels are the same, no free ads. You're in Detroit. You're in Detroit, Michigan, where you just witnessed 2 American League Division Series games between the Tigers and the Mariners. The Mariners taking Game 3 pretty handedly. The Tigers bouncing back in Game 4 to send it to a winner-take-all Game 5. The second best 2 words in sports. Game 5. Shusterman, take us through these 2 contests.
Yes. which one of these teams will be fortunate enough to head to Toronto, Canada this weekend to take on that top seed, the Toronto Blue Jays? We don't know yet, and that is because these two teams decided to split these couple games in Comerica, at Comerica Park. And it was for, I'll say, 13 innings, the first 13 innings in Detroit this week. We were just barreling towards Mariners in 4, the Mariners in 4 that I envisioned when the series began. As on Tuesday, while the final score was 8-4 because the Tigers scored a bunch of runs late against Caleb Ferguson, who was pitching for some reason. I guess he was pitching because they were up by a lot. This was not a competitive ball game on Tuesday. Logan Gilbert went out there and just bullied essentially the entire lineup. There was really only one inning where the Tigers offense had much of anything. Gilbert allowed 1 run in 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, no walks. His command was kind of all over the place. He was spraying fastballs. He wasn't getting a lot of first pitch strikes, but that splitter was, oh my goodness. There are a lot of splitters that are getting a lot of headlines in the postseason. Logan Gilbert's is certainly one of the best. The slider was on. The fastball was great. Mariners hit 3 homers as they do. The Mariners have been the second best road offense in baseball all season, behind only the Yankees. They leave Seattle, they rake, and that's what it looked like. And the Tigers offense continued to flounder. Jack Flaherty was bad. The bullpen was bad. And it was just like, all right, well, the Mariners are better. And I expected that to continue into today, or I guess yesterday, now as we talk at 1 a.m. But that is not what happened, Jake Mintz, because after the first 4.5 innings, where the Mariners were up 3-0, and Bryce Miller, who did not have a good season and has been injured, was pitching as well as he has. I mean, for
as well
a while,
as you could ask.
Yeah, as well as you could ask for him in that situation. And you figured the leash would be tight. He wasn't going to be asked to go much farther. But in the bottom of the 5th, the Tigers suddenly start putting together some hits. First against Miller, and then Gabe Speier, who's been really automatic for Seattle out of the bullpen for much of the season, just has a really bad day. And Jahmai Jones comes in and immediately delivers a pinch hit double, that makes it 3-2. Dingler had driven in the first run. Yeah, Jahmai's he's got a roll, and he's doing it pretty well. And then Javi Baez, this was a very fun moment. Javi Baez just misses a home run. It would have looked almost identical to the one Judge hit. A much worse pitch than the one that Louis Varland threw to Judge from Spire, but just misses a home run. Ultimately, that one does go foul, but Baez still drives in the game-tying run there to make it 3-3. And then the Tigers pitching really shows up. Rookie Troy Melton comes in and throws 3 scoreless. And then Riley Green hits the farthest home run of his career in Comerica Park, 454 feet to right center. And that's what I ended up kind of centering my story on that I wrote, because Green has looked terrible until this swing. And this is kind of how he goes. He swings really hard. He chases a lot. He whiffs a lot. He'll strike out a lot. But man, oh man, when he connects, there are very few swings like it in this game. And Spire, again, I mean, this was just a terrible outing for him. And you like that matchup, Spire against Green, and hung a slider, and Green gives them their first lead since the 11th inning of game 1. Bizzardo comes in. He keeps leaking more runs. Tigers keep adding on. Javi Baez then gets his redo. He does hit a homer later. And then the Tigers end up scoring 9 runs, which this stat just blows my mind. The most runs the Tigers have scored in a postseason game since, did you see this, Jake Mintz?
No.
1968 World Series.
Oh, I remember that game.
84 playoff games ago is the last time the Tigers scored 9 runs. Not 19, okay? 9. All right.
The Blue Jays did that twice this week.
There you go. So it's not like the Tigers haven't been in the playoffs too, right? Like, so it's 1968 World Series, which the Tigers did win. That was game 6 guess they won it in 7. Bob Gibson was pitching that year. But anyway,
Right.
so it's been a long time since the Tigers have scored this many runs in a postseason game, and that was very clear. Glaber homers later, Javi drives in another run late, and the Mariners offense which it seemed like it was waking up, just totally no-shows the rest of the way. Tigers cruise 9-3, and now we get to go back to Seattle. I'm not going to Seattle for this game, but the fine folks on the Mariners beat.
You'll watch this? You think you'll watch this game?
I think I'm going to watch this one. We will have Tarek Skubal back on the mound. Can the Mariners beat Tarek Skubal for a 4th time?
Fourth time.
Did the Mariners beat Tarek Skubal in game 2, or did Jorge Polanco beat Tarek Skubal and the Mariners won the game? Because
so he's on the
Mariners.
Question. He's on the Mariners.
Yes, he will get to face him again.
It's not like they rented him. You know, they didn't have him on loan. They didn't have to drop him back off at Hertz or something. Like he's on the team. If the Mariners win this series by beating Skubal twice, that's like going on hard mode, dude. That is ridiculous. And it is very possible that they could do it because scoring runs of any sort is very difficult at T-Mobile, whether Tarek Skubal is pitching or whether, Skerrick Tubal is pitching. And so in the way that the Mariners kept Detroit quiet, with Luis Castillo being kind of wild and scattered, like that same thing could happen in game 5. What are your feelings heading into game 5? What do you think is the most important kind of storyline to follow as we enter?
I mean, honestly, I think in a lot of ways it goes to the managers. We don't know who is starting in this game for Seattle yet. George Kirby started game 1, so he is the most rested. Castillo would still be on basically full rest, also having pitched on Sunday. You don't assume that Gilbert would be available in relief, but maybe that shouldn't be necessary. But how they kind of deploy Castillo and Kirby, who presumably would both be available, one then the other, who would they like more in relief? What matchups do they favor, especially against Kerry Carpenter, right, who famously just demolishes George Kirby? Carpenter did not look very good these last couple games, but still you're going to be thinking about that. And as I mentioned, the difference in managerial experience here. And, there have been some points along the way that in general, I'm going to say it's going to be about the players. I don't like talking about managers very often, but in the playoffs and in games like this, when you have someone like AJ Hinch who's done a million of these and is so just like clearly is just living and breathing this stuff in every possible way, almost to a comical degree. And Dan Wilson's just kind of figuring it out. And so I just think in a really interesting like this,
contrast. Yeah. Because Hinch, like both of these guys seem to love being managers. Wilson is like, I'm not trying to belittle his strategic acumen, but he's more like for the boys, right? Like he loves slapping a guy on the ass after like a tough outing. He's like, you're good, man. He's more like that kind of manager, where Hinch is just like, I need to come up with every single possible permutation of when this reliever would go in this spot. And
correct.
Like they are both like to the max in their respective degrees. And it'll be very interesting to see how Wilson tries to defend against Hinch's Hinchness in a winner-take-all game. For me, it's the Mariners pitching. Skubal is not going to lose the game, right?
Right.
He
might give up a homer or two, but he's not getting blasted out of the building. And what happened, by the way, we have to obviously mention, and Skubal, when he spoke today, ahead of his start, he's like, you could say whatever you want about the narratives of like, I just did this last year and I gave up a grand slam to Lane Thomas in game 5 of the DS. Like he's following the same pattern and he's going to try and not have that happen again. But I think the point that you're getting to is that like Skubal's not just going to get crushed. It's just not possible. I mean, what happened last year was a really wild inning that resulted in one swing that happened to have the bases loaded. But maybe the Mariners can beat him again, but even in the games that they've beaten him over these first 3, it's not like they put up 10 runs on him. They've just done just enough, and the Tigers didn't score enough runs. So that's very possible. It's extremely in play. But to your point, Skubal's he's gonna go out there and he's gonna throw at least 6 innings, and he's probably gonna be pretty good.
I'm not a gambling man. I'm a rambling man. But if I were to bet, I would take the under on 0.5 grand slams allowed by Tarek Skubal in game 5. I don't know what betting site lets you do that, but just take the under on 0.5 grand slams allowed.
All right. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so I mean, listen, the pressure is obviously going to be on Seattle in every sense. I still think they are the better team. I think pretty clearly, but they gotta say. I'll just reiterate what I said as we send this to break here. I'll reiterate what I said at the start of the series. They gotta win the series. For this to be a successful season, this team should be in the American League Championship Series. That's how I feel. Now, ironically, you could, I guess, in June say you should have said the same thing about the Tigers because of how dominant they were, and be like, all right, well, this team's clearly awesome. They should be making their way.
But they peed their pants at the right time.
Yeah, and so now they get to be the team that's like, nah, we're chilling, like no pressure on us. Well, who's to say there were expectations here? So
it is so funny. Teams show up in October and they're like, we suck. Like we're playing with house money. We're ass. Like
Hinch is going back and forth on the like, we earned the ability to be here, and it's like, yeah, you earned it by losing, but then also winning just enough at the end. It's like it's true. Like he's not wrong, but it's
you
kind
earned
of
it because the Astros were even more embarrassing. But you're here
because other teams really didn't, and that's fine. That's fine. So hey, look, if the Tigers, I will say the other way to look at it is if the Tigers win the series, I think that they have successfully flushed what has occurred over the last month. I'll say 100%. Right? Like, I think.
Do you think they already
this
have?
Would be I mean, I'm sure
today
they
felt
feel
like
they
that.
have.
Today felt like that because today was the first time they won at home.
Over a month. September 6th. Last time they won at home, they were 10 games up on Cleveland.
But also, like, think about it that way, right? Like, the last time you made your home fans happy and then saw them experience it was a month and change ago. And so, like, when you're in that type of rut, what's so and this is true in baseball as much as it is life, like when you're in that type of rut, the difficult part is not being able to envision getting out of the rut, right? You're like, you can't even picture what life used to be like when you were cooking. And so for the Tigers today to like put their hands and their eyes on this thing must be invigorating to a certain extent.
Yeah. And that's the last thing I'll say just on the Tigers fans is, you know, that last win, September 6th, you know, we're talking about, the first half, and it's a long time since they were that good. When they won that game on September 6th against the White Sox, they were a half game behind the Blue Jays for the best record in the American League. And they still were sniffing, not just like, we're definitely getting home field. We could get the top seed. Lots changed since then, mostly for the worse. But clearly they have an opportunity to give Tarek Skubal the ball and advance farther than they have in quite some time. So we will see what happens on Friday night. Game 5, that will be the only game since the Yankees lost. And I am both ecstatic and just the opposite of ecstatic to watch that baseball game. We will see how it goes. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, the National League. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. It's National League time. We'll begin with the Phillies and Dodgers. So I can't believe it, dude. The postseason is so funny because I was in Philly 2 days ago, and it feels like 10 years ago. I was there for game 2, which was its own beautiful, bizarre train wreck. You can read what I wrote about that. When we do the postseason, like I don't want to be reductive with this, but you know, you do it enough that like you feel the waves of the series, and so you get these like templates that you can write within, and you can tell these stories within, and then you kind of operate within them. And there's like season on the brink. There's hero saves the day. There's like the eulogy. Like there are all these different things, right? And so when I wrote the Phillies in game 2, instead of doing season on the brink, I just went straight to eulogy. And then like tonight when I was at Yankee Stadium and they were like playing the Dodgers, I was like, all right, like I guess they are still like in the playoffs. Because game 2 the Phillies felt like the first team to get beat 2-0 in a best of 5 series in baseball history. We don't need to relitigate.
Well, we have to. Let's be honest. I mean, so did the Yankees. Felt like that before Aaron Judge hit that home run. I mean, what's what they did
different.
In
it's
Toronto,
different when you're. It's different when you're at home.
No, that's
it's
true.
different when you're
I
at
just
home.
mean from a
When you
decisiveness
lose,
standpoint, but yeah.
dude, because like, you know, every fan is like, yeah, wow, we got beaten those first 2 games, but once they get to our place, you know, once they get to like, we're different here. We do it different here. Like they can't handle what we are, right? Whereas like if you lose the first 2 at home, it's like, well, they could handle us. So oof. And then you have to do the fake, like, you know, once they get out of the pressure, game 2 in Philadelphia was a very unique baseball game. Jesus Luzardo, Blake Snell dominate through 6 innings. Luzardo left in a little bit too long. Dodgers pounce, score 4. Weird play at the plate. Orion Kerkering kind of allows a bleeder to Kike Hernandez, whatever. Then we could just fast forward to the 9th with the bunt play heard around the world. The decision to bunt was the wrong decision. The bunt itself was a fine bunt. The base running by Nick Castellanos was predictably subpar. The way that you're taught on that play, right? You shadow the fielder, and as the fielder wheels to third, the shortstop wheels to third, you are able to get as far away from second base as the fielder is, because in the event that, you know, they pop up the bunt or the bunter misses the ball, you could just get back to second before the fielder, right? Now, if you're slower, like if Castellanos is slower than Mookie, like you need to maybe give a little bit of leeway, but you can almost shadow the shortstop as they're going to run as fast as they can to third, right? And that center fielder is not coming in to like backpick you or like be there. Like you have space. So if you watch the overhead of this play, once the bunt hits the turf, Castellanos, in theory, and this is hard to do in the moment, could have just broken down and walked back to second base, and there was no one there. The problem is that he gives Mookie just too much dang ground, and so the ball, and Mookie just beat him by a mile, and he's out, and it's not even close. And that changes the complexion of the game because, I mean, the momentum flips, and they're able to bring in Roki, and it just, that was it. That was all it was. And then the final play where, you know, Tommy Edman almost throws it away was absolutely bonkers, but the Dodgers used 3 pitchers to get 3 outs. A 9th inning I will never forget. The Phillies clubhouse was not as like despondent as I was expecting, but it all felt like the end of an era. In Philly, the invincibility of Citizens Bank Park gone. They have now lost. They're 1-5 in their last 6 playoff home games after starting this era 10-2 in their first 12. And it was so bad that I was like, you know what? I don't even need to think about their game. And then they freaking won. And then the Phillies won. The Phillies won game 3 in LA. Kyle Schwarber goes yard twice, including a 455-foot tank job with like a jaw-dropping home run.
This is what it looks like. He adds another one against Kershaw late. Yeah, I mean, the story of this game, Yamamoto kind of just cruises through 3 innings, and then in the 4th, he is greeted by that Schwarber homer, which I believe left the stadium. It does look like it
hit the roof,
landed above, hit the top deck of kind of those famous bleachers and right, because he pulled it enough that, you know, you could do that. But I mean,
so
that's what it looks like. Schwarber's got his fair share of postseason homers that look exactly like this, and this one is the latest.
I got boots on the ground. So, you know, friend of the program, Matt Gelb, who's the Phillies writer for The Athletic, I texted him, "Holy crap, Kyle." Matt said, "Yeah, out of the yard." So there you go.
Out of the yard.
Out of the yard.
Said. And here are the Phillies hitters. Oh my goodness, Phillies only strike out.
Here are the Phillies
4
hitters?
times. I don't know what I was going for there.
Here
it is 1:38.
Are the Phillies hitters?
In the morning. The Phillies only struck out 4 times tonight. They had 5 different guys have multi-hit games, including their top 4 hitters plus JT Realmuto, who really opened things up against Clayton Kershaw with a home run in the 8th. Clayton Kershaw comes in for his first relief appearance in the postseason since 2019.
Different guy.
How did that go? Oops. Ooh, unfortunately, this ended up going in a similar fashion.
I cannot believe the Dodgers just got Brent Honeywelled him
of the first inning. They got out of the first inning, and dude, friend of the show, guest of the show, the great Brian Anderson on the call, when he gets out of the seventh inning unscathed, he says, and Kershaw has his playoff moment, not like in the grand scheme of his career, but we weren't sure if he was going to pitch at all in this postseason, right? And then he goes back out, and because he gets through the top of the order, he gets through.
And didn't Brandon Marsh just smoke a ball to end the inning?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I guess he ended both innings, which is kind of sad. Anyway, he gets through Turner, Schwarber, Harper. Now there's walks and hard hit balls, but no runs. It's okay, whew, all right, fine. It's 3-1. Dodgers can score 2 runs, right? No problem. Instead, they just, after Real Muto homers, we get walk, we get an error, we get another Stott bunt, hilariously. Turner single, Schwarber hits another homer, Harper double, Bohm single, and it's what if Harper gets thrown out of the home? It could have been even worse. And I was just that felt weird because Dodgers are 2 runs. And so I haven't seen how much flack Dave Roberts has gotten online, or how much this is in the discourse, because I just haven't seen it because we started recording shortly after this game ended. But that was disappointing. But of course, the story is still the Phillies bats showed up, and the Phillies pitching, mostly Ranger Suarez, who was amazing for 5 innings after Aaron Nola goes 2, and also did his job. Phillies showed up, and they end up winning pretty comfortably.
Do you think they can win the series, the Philadelphia Phillies? Because on one hand, it's that's still a mountain to climb. But on the other hand, it's well, they see it, right? They did it in the same way that the Tigers players now look and they're oh, right, this is what this looks like. For the first 2 games of this playoff, really dating back to game 2 last year in the NLDS against the Mets, just envisioning the Phillies hitters playing well in October is difficult. It is difficult for us, and I'm sure in some ways it is difficult for them. And so there was certainly some catharsis to kicking the crap out of the Dodgers tonight. Game 4 will be Tyler Glasnow for the Dodgers against Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies. Sanchez will be on regular rest. The Dodgers don't want to have Ohtani rush back. He started game 1. They're not going to go 1-4 with him, understandably. So you would think that the Phillies have the pitching advantage in this game. The Dodger bullpen exposed a little bit today, or Dodger bullpen or lack thereof. I think the Phillies certainly could win tomorrow night. The question is, if the Phillies push it to 5, right? If the Phillies push it to 5, the energy at Citizens Bank Park for Game 5 will be one of the most fascinating experiences ever, right? Because it's I thought you were done. I thought you already ended this thing. I thought you broke up with me, and now you're coming back and telling me that no, we were still together the whole time, and now you're breaking up with me again. If the Phillies win tomorrow and lose Game 5, I just how do I write another eulogy? Is my question, right?
We're about to find out. That's your problem, my guy. I'm going to say also, of course, the prospect of that from an entertainment standpoint, knowing that Ohtani will be starting Game 5 is also quite compelling theater. Here's what I'm going to say about this series, and we will go to the Cubs and Brewers and finish up. This is not just about this series. I guess it applies to the next one. It applies to the one we talked about. Applies to all these series. And it's a point that is so simple and so stupid that I don't think I would make it if I wasn't recording this at 1:40 in the morning, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think that as you, what got me thinking about this is you being oh, it's a mountain to climb. It is funny, and I think it speaks to how these series have gone, that mentally 2-0 feels like we're almost trained to treat it like 3-0. And so that when they win, Game 3 in the way that if a team is down 3-0 and then wins Game 4 and is avoids getting swept, you're still well, there's no chance they're winning this series.
Like the World Series last year.
Exactly. Like Yankees won game 4 and we were like, whatever. In this case, it's a situation where I feel like we're maybe overcorrecting and being like, after these teams went up 2-0, we were like, well, they have absolutely no chance. And as we saw in the Yankees case, that turned out to maybe be accurate, even with their win in game 3. But after they won game 3, you're like, well, look, what's the big deal? You got to win 2 more games. Who cares? As opposed to 3 more. And in this case with the Phillies, I'm torn between where you're getting at, where it's like still a mountain to climb versus like, I don't know, I picked this team to win the World Series and they got Christopher Sanchez going and then whatever, like they'll figure it out. So I don't know. And as we now transition this to where are you at on that premise?
There. You were not there.
You're right.
You did not see what I saw and feel what I felt. Any Phillies fan, which I am not, who is listening, who is in that building that night. I know that you have a Phillies fan who texts you funny stuff all the time, and I get it. But like, it was hopelessness. It was despondence. It was just like no one in the yard that night who loved the Phillies wanted to watch a baseball game ever again. Like you know what I mean? Like it was that type of thing, and maybe they do it right. It certainly didn't feel like they could then.
Sure.
I have not watched the highlights of this game because I was at Yankee Stadium doing post game there, and so maybe I'll watch the Schwarber homer 3 more times and be like, oh, maybe. But I don't think so.
That's fine.
We'll see, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is funny. Okay, speaking of that same kind of feeling, let's go to the Cubs and Brewers, where first 2 games of this series.
Did this game have that feeling? Because so the Brewers win a laugher in game 2, right? 7. I guess it was 7-3.
Well, hold on. Let's quickly just.
Am I skipping ahead?
This one was a little bit more compelling than game 1. I mean, I felt like game 1 was fairly non-competitive.
Seiya Suzuki 3-run homer in the top of the first. You have Andrew Vaughn responds immediately with 3-run shot in the bottom, all with 2 outs. The first 2 outs go down for the Brewers, and they get 2 guys on, and then Vaughn goes yard. Game kind of settles in a little bit. Then you have Wilson Contreras with a homer in the 3rd, and then you have the big hammer blow, which is Jackson Chourio with a 3-run shot in the 4th, and then it just kind of like that's the game. Everyone was like, we're good. We don't need to score anymore. Game finishes 7-3. Mizorowski is such a funny. Cubs fans are so mad at this guy. Like, I don't usually like to just group everyone in a fan base in together, but the amount of Cubs fans who are like, this dork, like this guy's like, yes, Jacob Mizorowski is both a dweeby looking thing and a dweeby moving thing, and he throws 103. All of those things are true. Our brains are not taught to 104. Our brains are not taught to reconcile like nerds being good athletes. And I don't know if he's a nerd and or a geek or a dweeb, like whatever you want to say. I like the kid. Okay. I like the kid, but he presents in this way, and our brains expect like athletes and jocks to look like Aaron Judge. Right. And he is not that. He does not float through the world. It does not look easy. It is like this herky jerky boy who just happens to be throwing 104. And when he got amped, it was very uncomfortable to watch. And yet he is obviously within his rights to do so. It's the playoffs, get amped. And it was just funny for me to see Cubs fans be like, look at this nerd. It's like, yeah, that nerd just shoved it.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I want to make sure you weren't shortchanging him, because he was throwing 104, which is not what he was doing as a starter, and he goes 3 scoreless and pretty good. But then the series shifts to Chicago, and this game today was once again, Cubs come out hot. 4 runs in the bottom of the first inning. Quinn Priester. I can't give it my all because it's almost 2 a.m. and I don't want to get a noise complaint in this hotel.
It was the same as like when I didn't talk about this in the Philly series, but when they brought Duran in the 9th and they did the entrance, and it was like, It was like when I was watching Quinn Priester, I wanted to text you, Quinn Priester.
So Chicago's own Quinn Priester records just 2 outs, allows 4 runs, and makes me and Jake very sad. Meanwhile, the Cubs, Matthew Bush,
sleeper agent,
call him
Chicago sleeper agent
Mitchell. Let's call him Mitchell Bush. This dude's unbelievable. This guy's awesome. What a freaking hitter! Like he's just cruising along. He's just leadoff guy, just homering like every game. And he starts it off strong, and then the Cubs continue to actually
PCA.
They don't continue. PCA
got
is
a
big
hit,
hit.
Right?
That was nice to see. PCA drove in a run, but then the Cubs just kind of coast, and it's like it was kind of that just like, can we just get to the finish line? And it's so funny, kind of in a similar way to the Blue Jays bullpen, where every once in a while it just goes horribly wrong, and it's like, oh God, what a catastrophe! I don't trust this group at all. And then sometimes they just ball out. And after Taillon goes 4 innings, we got Pomeranz, Palencia, Kittredge, Thielbar, Keller, a real who's who of relief dominance.
A real
outside of
who's? Who?
A real who of bullpen excellence. Besides Andrew Kittredge giving up a homer to Jake Bauers, the Cubs get enough outs and they win 4-3. And now let's bring it back to the dynamic I just introduced earlier. Are we now feeling like, why not? Why can't the Cubs win this series? Of course, with these two teams, I'm still staring at a TBD with this game. We got double Tom Brady's dad for Game 4 as we record this not too many hours before it. So I don't know who's going to pitch. I haven't been following this closely enough to think about who could be pitching in this game, but it kind of speaks to both teams that's kind of where we're at. And it's also making me realize that whatever happens with the Phillies and Dodgers, the contrast of the pitching plans for these two teams versus the Phillies or the Dodgers is so funny. And we're not even there yet.
It's Tom Brady's dad against Tyra Banks's dog.
Thank you for giving me some more variety there. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all for listening to this episode of Baseball Pharmacast.
I think it's a great place to end. Brewers and Cubs fans are probably so annoyed at us this week. But whatever.
I know, but you guys, like, today was a tense game and probably the most interesting game of the series. But it's less interesting when like one team races out and then the other team like crawls back and it doesn't quite get there. You know what I mean? It's also hard when you're like at a different game. I'm sorry, Brewers and Cubs fans. Like, if you deliver a banger of a Game 4, like we're recording again tomorrow night, and we will spend so much time talking about you. We promise, to the bottom of our hearts, we apologize. It is 1:51 in the morning. We're going to cut it here so our producers can get this thing up. Thank you to who's on the show tonight. Thank you to Andrew Hartz and Ingrid Rosas. I was about to shout out like producers we've had in the past, and I was like, they're not here. I am gonna go do some writing, and I got a train at 4:30 to head back to DC, where I will probably take a nap. Jordan, talk soon. Talk tomorrow.
We'll be back. We got another show coming this week. Hopefully recorded late tomorrow night, and then we will see what happens after that. Thank you for listening. BaseballBarbecast@gmail.com. Send us your emails. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.